Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name's Adam from Room Raccoon. Um, Myself and our rather large panel are going to take you through OTAs and direct bookings and all good stuff like that. So maybe we'll just start with a very quick introduction. So if we just move along here, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. Hello, my name is Geert Buskes. I'm the owner of Effecti. We're a digital marketing agency focused on building strong brands for the hospitality and leisure sector. And from that perspective, I'm going to join in on this panel today.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jamie de Jong. I'm the owner of Broek Oudewater, which is a hotel in the city center of Oudewater. 24 rooms, and we've got a restaurant facility of 100 seats. So.
Hi, I'm Florian Augustin. I'm from Hotel Partner Revenue Management. We're a revenue management service and technology company.
Adam, excited to be here. Patrick Brandt of hoteliers.com. We help hotels to get more direct business for e-commerce, distribution, and digital marketing.
And you have some groupies.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Hi,
Daniel.
my name is Olivier Pernou. I work for Expedia, where I've been for the last 19 years. I look after our lodging supply in a part of EMEA as a senior director.
Cool. So before we kick off, my marketing team have pressured me into doing an icebreaker just to check everyone is alive. So I'm just going to throw a question out. Who can tell me how many beds there are available in hotels in Amsterdam? Anyone want to have a wild guess? Just shout some answers, please. How much? 60,000. Okay. Anyone else? 120, 90. Okay. Anyone else? 76. Okay. I think there's actually just shy of 40,000. But I'm going to throw this to you, hopefully. Well, there we go, magic. If you want to take that to our stand afterwards, you can redeem that for some very nice vouchers with some of our hotel partners. So thanks. Anyway, that's done for marketing. Let's move on with the proper stuff. Maybe we just kick off with. I think we were here last year. For those of you that joined, just after sort of COVID had sort of died down, which was a terribly fun time for everybody. And I think we were looking at sort of trends, and we were hearing things like revenge travel and digital nomads of everyone working from home and pleasure travel and all of these things. Maybe just to kick off to the panel, and maybe Olivier, start with you. What do you see as the kind of trends in terms of bookings moving ahead? What's Expedia looking at and seeing and planning for?
Well, first of all, I think we are seeing it all in our businesses, in your properties, is that travel is back. It's massively back. Clearly, people are compensating for and are making up for a lot of the lost time. We're seeing it in our numbers. But most importantly, beyond just that, it's also about patterns that you start seeing. And we do a couple of times per year, we do a survey with over 15,000 respondents with a global audience. And what comes of that survey is we analyze travel sentiment. And it's a very important element for us to define our strategy and to get insights. And what we see from that is that 46% of the respondents are saying that travel is more important today than it was before the pandemic. So first trend is that travel is there to stay. People want to travel, and it's becoming even more important than it was before. Secondly, we have a third of the respondents that say they're going to spend at least the same amount of money towards travel in the next 12 months. And 45% of respondents that say they're going to spend more money and allocate more budget towards their travel in the future. So that is something very important to take into account, and we see that it's growing both on international travel. The big cities are back, whereas during pandemic it was a lot of domestic and nearby, countryside, hyper clean and safe. Now people are back to exhibitions, to museums, concerts, big destinations. We see it in our top destinations. You have Edinburgh, you have Tokyo, you have large international cities. And also business travel. 2 years ago, only 13% of business travelers were saying that they would take a business trip in the next 12 months. And that amount has doubled. Today it's 35% of respondents, business travelers, that are saying that they are going to take a business trip. So that is really from first trend, really from a numbers perspective, something important. And lastly, is about some trends in how people behave versus travel. And you see the rise of flexcations and leisure is really there to stay. 77% of our respondents are saying that they plan to extend the business trip with some personal time. And an additional 15% of travelers are saying that they're going to take a flexcation trip this year, meaning they're going to work elsewhere than normal and book travel for that. So and I think very encouraging for us in this industry.
Cool. Jamie, you made the somewhat crazy decision to open a hotel in the middle of COVID.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, is that sort of consistent with what you're seeing? How does that play out? You're an independent hotelier, right? How does that play out with your experiences so far?
Well, to be honest, our experience is not all year around the same way. Because of COVID, we could not have a full year that we could experience what kind of guests do we get in our hotel. So the first year we started, we were a couple of months we were closed, and then again. And now this year is the first year that we can experience when people are traveling to our hotel. But what we can see, for example, is that my occupancy in April is like sky high, but the first 2 months and 3 months are actually very low. We see that a lot of people are staying more than one night. So in our hotel, they will stay 1.6 days, more or less. And we see that people are spending more money to stay in the hotel, but also spend a lot of money on the restaurant, but also in the city that they are in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we see as a trend. Definitely, occupancy is much higher. I think a lot of us working with or being independent hotels, occupancy isn't necessarily the challenge, right? We've only got a finite amount of rooms. We're selling 20, 30, 40, 50 bedrooms. We can fill them. I think a lot of it's about filling them for the right price, for the right duration. Maybe Florian, what are you seeing? How are you helping your customers get that sort of pricing with their distribution channels and their pricing strategy right to maximize that?
As you correctly said, occupancy is not the issue, and we need to go away from forecasting on occupancy and understanding that demand is manipulative by price. So occupancy aren't the goals we're looking at. If we usually have a very holistic approach in terms of distribution strategy, understanding what channels can I leverage to what certain extent. And I mean, in our panel, it says OTA versus direct, which in my opinion is the wrong formulation. It's OTA and direct, and understanding how you can really have that relationship, which is very beneficial for all, and then get the best business mix into house, especially small hotels who are new. They need to first find their market positioning, gain market shares, and understand how can I then convert this to a more direct, more profitable business. And where we always come also into play is use technology and use smart technology to really have a high level of automation in terms of your distribution management, as in what channel, what time, what occupancy do I have in-house, what segments do I have in-house, and understanding how to leverage that demand and then to create more valuable direct bookings. And then obviously on top of that, we're a revenue management company. We're not a digital marketing company, so we don't really create demand. We can only kind of influence where it goes. So we are very, very much recommending all of our clients or bringing partners into the mix who do marketing, who do direct digital marketing, because that is essential. You have to have the synergy of these components, and they all need to click, and then you will have a very, very profitable distribution mix.
Yeah, so I mean, Patrick, you've kind of got a foot in both camps, right? So one in the channel manager camp and one in the sort of direct marketing. So what are you telling your customers, and what are you seeing?
Yeah, within the field of direct business, we have a lot of conversations, of course, with the hotels. There has been a change in business mix. I think, like we've seen Booking.com coming back tremendously. Before they were at around 50% of all reservations done, and now it's around 60, so that's a lot. but also a mix within the other parties, like Airbnb, we see also coming up, for instance. And the direct business, it's a difficult part because you have to allocate also more budget to it, I think. So we see clients that are doing really well, allocating more budget on Google Hotel Ads, for instance, because Google is also a good party to look at to generate traffic and to generate direct business against a lower margin or a better margin for the hotelier. And I think like in website building, a lot of experience is added to websites. So you see more videos, involvement. So RMS, this is also a topic I think we see a lot to focus on your price strategy and to get help from a data-driven system like a RMS. Then we see also the business travel market coming up. We do GDS, for instance, as well, and also these numbers are really up from the third, fourth quarter of last year. So yeah, these are a couple of trends we see.
Yeah, and I think Florian's right. This should have been direct bookings and OTAs. We're not up here to give Olivier a kicking. I think it's about how they coexist, right? I think most of us in the independent sector, unless perhaps we've got a truly exceptional brand, we're going to have a distribution mix, right? We're going to work alongside various distribution partners, Expedia and various others. And I think obviously we want to try and maximize those direct booking opportunities where we can. But I think it's like Patrick says, that there's a cost to that. It's a fallacy to think that direct bookings are free of charge, right? You can't, they're not just magically going to appear. So how do we make them appear? How do we build that kind of personal brand and elevate our direct position as an independent hotelier with maybe not quite the marketing budgets of an Expedia or a Booking.com or an Airbnb?
Yeah, I think what we see, first of all, maybe let's start with a small trend that I'm seeing, which also relates to what I'm going to tell. Like what I see is a little bit of a shift from finding the right guests to finding also the staff to help the right guests. And I think both of them can be helped with a strong brand. People, but also guests, like to work or like to visit a hotel that stands for something. And I was talking with Jamie before this meeting, and he said, like, we don't really have a staff problem. And then I asked, what's your secret? And then he said, well, we're working with, we have a social cause. So in our concept, we integrate a social cause, and we're working with people with a distance to the working environment. And that helps us tremendously with finding the right people. And I think this is also the answer for not exactly only this solution, but having a strong concept, having making decisions, making actually choices on what you want to do and what guests you want, what employees you want, making a strong team and creating a concept, a brand that actually attracts the right employees, but also the right people. That's one of the things that helps tremendously with getting a lot of direct bookings. And also when you have a lot of loyal guests that actually come to your hotel for your hotel and not only for the location or something else, makes return visits way easier. And return visits, they are not free, but they are cheaper than getting people to come to your hotel with spending a lot of ad budget. So one of the key factors is knowing who your customers, your guests are, knowing what your concept is and how you can fit it with the right type of guests, and actually invest in building a relationship with these people. And I think it's a win-win situation, because if you copy that to your employees, then you actually also have more loyal staff and people that are actually wanting to stay longer, feel more integrated with your hotel and are happier to work there. So that's the start. And I think everyone can do it. You don't need marketing budget for that. You only need like a conceptual vision for your hotel and a dream that you want to make happen.
Maybe just to add, I absolutely love that approach, because we are in such a difficult situation with our employees and our workforces, but coming back to the point of how important it is to actively understand and make the conscious decision. I want to have a more healthy distribution mix, especially in very high demand areas. It is very easy to go out and say, okay, I can fill 80, 90% of my business with OTA business. But then to actively go and say, hey, how valuable are these customers for me, especially F&B heavy locations or hotels? They want that repeat visitor and that connection. So the OTA gives you the door opener, and I know I'm not helping in this case for you guys, but it gives you the door opener. You have the guest coming to you, and then you have the chance to build that relationship, to make that experience. And then it's very much a numbers game. You need to understand the cost of acquisition. How much money do I need to spend? And then you can have strategic decisions and say, sometimes I might be overspending because I really want this guest and this mix, because I can get so much added value out of building the relationship further down the road. And in many instances, your cost of acquisition is significantly lower than the OTA commission. So therefore, you have that automatic, immediate value if you manage to set it up. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And
To top it up, Florian, on what you said, and I agree as well with it's not the direct versus OTA, but the end. But a good example for that as well is utilize your distribution channels like Expedia on your OTAs, like Expedia or Booking, to market and brand yourself. The same researcher was quoting before, 70% of respondents today say they are choosing properties based on their belief. For example, on sustainability, for example. You mentioned social cause, but sustainability could be another area, for example. 92% of travelers are willing to pay more for sustainable options. But as a hotelier, you need to brand yourself like this. So tick those boxes, those amenities that talk about your water-saving shower systems, about your reduction of single-use plastic programs and stuff like that, to brand yourself to the outside, and engage with the customers as well. On Expedia, you can leverage the conversations platform in order to set expectations to customers, which is super important. We see that hotels who utilize this feature regularly have a 10% better traveler review score, for example, just because they've been able to set expectations with the customer on beforehand or after their trip as well. So this is where the two come together.
yeah, and I think they really go hand in hand, because we know a lot of direct business actually originates via OTA search anyway. You know, the OTA platforms provide, they've got huge marketing reach. A lot of people may start that journey on Expedia. Now, obviously, Olivier, you hope they check out and complete it there. But we know, they will go and often use Expedia, Booking, any of the big guys as an aggregation search. The great thing about those channels is they standardize a lot of that data, but then they may go and seek out their direct website to find out more about that expectation setting and looking in more detail and taking that on. So maybe we talked about, defining concepts, social causes, knowing what maybe your identity is, who your guest is, what matters to them. What would you be advising them to do next, Patrick? So they have a clear identity, like, this is my segment. These are the type of guests I want to attract. How do they maybe maximize that and get that out there?
Oh, last week I was in Berlin at the ITB, like many of us, and going to a Google conference. And I think, looking at Google, for instance, because a lot of traffic is generated through Google, of course, it's very important to optimize, for instance, the business profiles. Google is adding filters, every now and then. And this sustainability filters, of course, also a very important one that is added. So make sure that you are present within all these filters and all these boxes your guests are making these selections on. And I think this is also for the OTA an important one, making a selection that your hotel profile pops up. But also in Google with their products, it's important, and then it needs to be relevant as well at the website as well. That if you're in this sustainability filter, make a page on the website that you're actually found on this with relevant pictures to it, with relevant reviews to it, so that you can actually show the round circle in this guest experience.
Yeah, I think you can build that SEO strategy as well, right? Get the right backlinks, have the right pages. I think the Google business listing is really important. Every hotel needs to have that. I also think Google Hotels is a pretty powerful, still a relatively new channel. I just think it's super important to be above the fold. I know there's opportunities where it may look attractive to list for free on Google, but if you're below the fold, I'd rather pay for it and get seen. You're still going to be paying a lower rate.
Also, sorry, one more thing about it, because I think like the majority of the traffic from Google is free of charge.
Yep.
So be aware of that. And I think the free listing of the booking engine, which is recently added, well, recently we're already 2 years ahead, but for some hotels they're just starting with this, and it's very important to have this mix in it and to have this data, in front of you that you can make business decisions.
Yeah.
Allow budget.
Maybe I can add something to that as well. What we are seeing is that there's always friction between the guest that's looking for a solution and the hotelier that has the solution. And what we say is, like, whatever channel you're using, whether it's an OTA or it's Google, try to do some things that lowers the friction. So one example is uploading the right photos. You can do that on Expedia, but you can also do it on the Google business page. But also when you're ranking in Google, make sure that the snippet you're seeing, so the result where your hotel is being presented, that you actually lower the friction, so you actually explain what sets your hotel apart, and then you will lower the friction and people will click easier. So once you change your perspective from being found to lowering the friction with the right audience and making sure that it's easier to find the right solution, then you will actually see like a multiplier effect. You are ranking higher. You're getting the right clicks from the right people, the people that like your hotel, that like your solution. So you will see less ad spend, more returning visitors, and this is, I think, something that a lot of people lose out of sight when they are purely focusing on getting clicks and visits.
Yeah.
Well, I think the best thing to do as well, because in our approach we thought, you know what, we need to build our reputation online. So we looked at all the different OTAs that we can approach, but also on Google. Just make sure to have your reputation as clear as possible, but also tell the story about what your hotel or what you're doing as a business. And then when you're selecting your OTAs, I think we all can agree that we have a love-hate relationship with OTAs. We don't always like them because we need to pay the commission, of course, but on the other hand, we desperately need them sometimes because they can fill up your hotel. And even though in our case, I believe that 40% comes from OTA and 60% in our hotel comes from direct bookings, it is so nice to have that 40 additional percent to get all these guests into our hotel.
And it's also about when they fill the rooms, right? I think it's pretty easy for us to fill some of our rooms on a Saturday night in August, but filling those rooms on a Tuesday night in November can be a little bit more difficult. And I think it's working together and pricing strategies and whatever else and pushing that at the right time. So I think we talked a bit about knowing maybe who your customer is, what your identity is. We talked a bit about sort of the occupancies looking pretty strong, travel's coming back. I think one of the trends we definitely see at Room Raccoon is the average cost of stay increasing. Hoteliers are super focused on how can I grow TrevPAR. Like, I know I can fill these rooms, but how can I maximize the value of that stay? I mean, Jamie, I'm assuming you've got 24 rooms, right? And 100 covers in the restaurant. You are going to hope you're going to much prefer those guys that stay in your rooms to eat in your restaurant, right?
Definitely.
And so how do we? What things are we maybe doing or seeing? Whether that's maybe pricing strategy from a revenue management perspective or packages. What are we doing to try and increase that stay value?
Well, to be honest, we are very lucky that we are the only hotel in Oudewater, so we have a kind of monopoly situation. But then when we look at other competitors in our area, they don't have the right mixture compared to what we have. So I feel that we are very lucky as well. That we get the right guests that are spending their time, but also their money in our hotel. So I do not really need to change anything on my revenue strategy. Actually, we increased all the prices because of all the costs that are, of course, increasing. But on the other hand, we just try to make more money as well on the room. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And maybe Olivier, from an OTA side, what are you guys doing to try and? I guess we're all fighting the same fight, right? We'd prefer a higher transaction value than a lower one.
Again, back to the direct end OTA, it starts with capturing incremental business. If the business you get from your OTAs is about fishing from the same river that you can do as a hotelier directly yourself, then I'll be the first one to say absolutely no point, stay out of it. If you work with an OTA on a strategy that helps you capture business that you would not have gotten otherwise, then you can call it RevPAR, TrevPAR, occupancy, whatever. It's going to be incremental revenue to your property. That's number one. Number two is about really leveraging technology and data as much as you can. Be it from your distributors or from or yourself. You work with obviously with channel managers. We've gone into this a long time ago with Rev Plus, for example, where we give market occupancy forecasts, where we give price optimization alerts to indicate to our hotel partners, like, hey, here is something interesting for you to take into consideration because it seems to be diverting from your traditional difference with your competitive set, for example. And it's about doing what is right for the traveler. Because if you do what is really right for your guest, for the traveler, then it's always going to translate into an improvement in the ecosystem and on the price as well. I mentioned before about traveler reviews, how to leverage that, and the importance of setting expectations. Super important. But leveraging these kind of innovations and technology is super important.
Awesome. So I think we've got a few minutes left. Patrick, sort of final thoughts with regard to maybe increasing value and visibility?
Well, I was thinking about the customer journey and all the touch points you have as a hotelier. I think like it's also good to analyze yourself. Of course, we are more focusing on the online process with the website, the booking software, and then all the tools that pop up to get a higher conversion, for instance. But then the guest, it lands on a confirmation page. Do you work with upsell tools, for instance, which are integrated with your PMS system? So like these touch points during the customer journey is very important, and also during the stay of the guest. And there are tools, like there are a couple of tools you can, also on this show, walk around and engage with suppliers to see what they can do for you in communication with your guests throughout the whole customer journey.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. We introduced an online check-in and upsell tool into our PMS at the beginning of COVID. Part of that kind of contactless checkout process is probably one of the most significant things we've ever done to drive additional revenue. It's just the psychology of sales, right? These people come and book, and they're like, we present those add-on options to them, but maybe not then at the right time. But particularly if they've booked a non-refundable rate, getting served that information again a week, a few days before they check in, and going, hey, actually, this is bought and paid for. The idea of upgrading to a new room type, or putting whatever it is, some little perk, we just see the take up absolutely skyrocket, and the return on investment is absolutely insane. So yeah, definitely.
Especially if you manage to make it very clear, like what the differences are. And we've invested a lot last year in technology to make that happen in a much better way. We call it smart shopping, which, look, if you search for a flight, often you are tempted to go for the cheapest option, but you have not necessarily seen what were the cancellation policies, what luggages you can take or not, if you can choose your seat or not. And while putting all those options and making like-for-like comparisons, speaking about upselling, right, that's what we were talking about, then you make it much more compelling for the traveler to go for a more expensive price because, I actually want that one check-in luggage or that seat selection.
Yeah, no, definitely. Florian, final.
I think you just said it. It's sales. It's having a commercial mindset. And if you just take out the emotional hotelier part, and you said something which I don't agree with you need to know your segmentation, your guest mix beforehand, and then try to target that. I strongly disagree because I think that the market kind of decides what guest mix you will get. Obviously, if you have a very unique product, you have different kind of leverage, but at the end of the day, it can easily happen, and I've seen it multiple times that hoteliers are saying, well, this is my rate, this is the value that I perceive of my product, but then the market has a completely different opinion. And then if you're not really commercially minded, then you are going to lose money, and 2-3 months of not reaching your targets is for many hotels a not very smart approach. 2 more small tips for the online part. Get your basics straight in terms of how the homepage converts and how the customer experience is on the homepage. That's why the OTAs are so successful, because they make it super simple to make a booking, but they can also make it very indulging if you want to indulge and find out a lot of stuff. Bid on your own brand. Just spend 200 euros per month, because that is the easiest quick win you'll get. Because if everybody would be doing that, the OTAs would have a lot more difficulty in gaining market shares. And then, as I said, have that touch point strategy. That's how we do sales on our company, how we generate leads, is generating touch points with potential clients. If as a hotelier, I generate touch points during the whole customer lifetime, before and after, the chance of him coming back or recommending me goes up significantly.
Yep. Okay, here, final thoughts?
Yeah, so I think we shouldn't underestimate the multiplier effect. And what I mean with the multiplier effect is knowing who your customers or your guests are, and then actually creating a really strong brand for them, and actually creating scarcity that will help getting, for example, dynamic pricing to work. It will get more loyal guests that are actually returning more easy, getting a lower cost per acquisition. Getting better reviews, and better reviews help getting a higher conversion rate on your own website. So I think one of the things we underestimate with digital marketing is that they are all combined. They are all working together. And if you put them all in the right direction, and you are really focused on creating like a good flow inside of your own marketing, then you will see the multiplier effect happening. You will see guests returning more often. There's more scarcity. You can ask more for your rooms. You will see them putting better reviews, which increase your conversion rate, etc., etc., etc. So it all works together. And be focused on that. Make sure that it's flowing naturally and it's increasing your results step by step.
Thanks very much. Thanks to you guys for listening. Thanks to the panel. That's up. We're going to wrap up. I think if you guys have any questions, many of us are exhibiting here. If not, I think you'll find some of the others wandering around. Please come and see us, come chat to us. But thank you very much.
Thank you.